age, I will be a person that can lead my children into the right disciplines.
That's a wonderful point that you make. One is that corporal punishment, again, has been used less, although it's still been used to some degree. Yet you're still having some effective outcomes through conversation and through perhaps alternate ways of instruction. Mustang, you have some young children of your own. Do you have some thoughts on guidance and discipline?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my children are disciplined, end of story. But I think and really there is no but, that really is the end of the story. So I'm going off mic now. No, but I'm going to tell you something, if there's a car coming and I tell my son or my daughter to stop, you better believe they're going to stop. If I tell my my kids to be quiet, in a place, I'm going to give you an example at a funeral or something like that. My children are going to be quiet, because they respect their father, and I will even go as far as to say fear, but not fear in the sense of respect, not fear in the sense of terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, and I need to make this very explicit to the people out there. My oldest daughter, she'll lay her head on me. She's 11. It gets to the point now where dad doesn't even know what to do. I don't even know what to do because my daughter will lay her head on me, my shoulder. She'll she'll just sit there and hug me and hold me while I'm trying to get work done or something like that. And I'm like, what do I do? I have this almost teen, not teen, and she's hugging me. Like, I've never done this before. I don't know. I'm used to them as babies.
Give her a hug.
My middle, but she just wants to sit there and just kind of keep her head on my shoulder while I'm doing whatever. And I'm like, I can't move, but I want to hold you, but I don't know. And I'm kind of, but anyway, but my middle daughter, she was just crying today because she wanted to go with me explicitly somewhere, specifically just me, not any of the other kids. She wanted to just go with dad somewhere. And then my youngest son, he always wants me to kiss him at night. He wants me to play games with him. And he always, if he's not the first, he's the first to meet me or greet me at the door if I happen to come in from somewhere. So my kids love the heck out of their dad, but it's because I set up what I like to call, it's called the electric fence. Okay. And anything inside that fence, or everything I should say, inside or outside, is rainbows and sunshines and all that good stuff. Everything you could possibly want, fun, enjoyment, this, that. But when I tell you not to do something, and you do it anyway, there's that shock that I have to give you. And why? Why is there an electric fence? Why is there shock? Because whatever is inside that fence is far more dangerous than the shock. Why? People wonder why in the world would you ever do that? Why would I spank my child for leaning back in their seat? Because if they lean back in their seat too far, they'll bust their head, or they might bust their head. I know we're on a concrete floor now. I don't understand. They're just having a good time. They're just having a good time. Anytime I discipline go ahead. Yeah.
No. And I wanted to say, you're very wise to do that because back of the head or occipital trauma can cause sight loss. Just thought I'd
forgot we have a doctor.
So going ahead. I mean,
just FYI.
Good. Yeah. Go with that.
Go with the front of the head all the time, Chris. But that occipital, whatever. I don't even know what to say. But anyway, don't do that one. But long story short, that's what I explained that very thing to my children as well. Listen, the worst thing, and I believe BA, and I believe Nola, and you will even agree with me, the worst thing that I can do to you, is let you make your own decisions as a child. That is the absolute worst thing I can do to you. My son would be eating toothpaste, A&D ointment, and all of the multivitamin gummies that are for daddy. My daughter would be out there with her friends, staying out late at night, trying to act like a teenager out there. You know what I mean? My middle child, she's just crazy. So I don't know. She'd be like sitting on the roof or something. I don't know what she'd be doing. But long story short, the worst thing sometimes that we can be allowed to do is literally to make some of our, as children, not us, and even us to a degree. That's why we have laws, rules, and regulations. But to make our own, especially as children. So yes, do I believe spanking is correct? Absolutely. Because my spankings, I promise you, I give you my word, are significantly less terrifying and less scary than what's on the other side of that spanking, which is your decision to do whatever that is.
Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for sharing. I did want to add one small point, and this is about reward over punishment. And I wanted to ask each of you guys if you had heard or, sort of the adage, you can draw more flies with sugar than vinegar. The idea being, unless they're fruit flies, of course, Drosophila. But if more flies typically, but if you have the positive reinforcement for an action that's done good, children tend to want to do more of those positive activities, which come with positive rewards. So there are some benefits to, instead of waiting till they get to the fence, guiding them away from the fence with positive reinforcement for the things that they do, allowing them to make inroads towards positive behavior because you continue to reward that with, lots of praise, sometimes maybe a treat, affirmation in one way or another, which will redirect and keep the thought of, wow, I really like doing this because Daddy is really happy about that. I'm known, I don't yell. And, so a lot of, I had laryngitis one time. I never yelled at my kids. I wasn't a yelling dad. I tended to talk real soft when I got angry. And, I would never discipline them in the midst of anger either. It'd always have to be some other time. But what I would find is that, when I lost my voice with laryngitis, my youngest daughter came to me and said, Daddy, are you upset with us? And I said, no, baby, Daddy just can't talk because Daddy doesn't have a voice, but Daddy's not upset. The point, I guess, is that, she'd gotten accustomed to the notion that regular conversation is at a certain level. And then she needed to tune in more when the volume went down. She had to listen more carefully, as opposed to what we tend to see, which is an escalation where, you'll talk louder at your kids, you'll talk louder, which will ultimately ramp up the sort of turn down the attention because you're yelling at them. After a while, they'll kind of tune that out and they'll expect you to yell all the time. The idea, I think, that's one area, that I think we've probably not talked about, which is the notion of the communication and the style of communication. That's number one. And two is reward. Offering positive affirmation, maybe a bigger hug, maybe a bigger squeeze, maybe a little sugar-free treat, that makes, for doing something that didn't require asking. Just those things that allow them to know that you're constantly looking for the good in them and not just to punish and direct the bad out of them. I think those are things that I still remember from my folks, and those are things that I still find very valuable, the words of affirmation and so forth too. Mm-hmm. Question.
I wanted to make a small comment on that. Yeah, too. And I think because the question was posed, do you use corporal punishment? I only spoke on corporal punishment.
Oh, of course. No,
but I'm glad you actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually brought that up because that, that's a really good point. So people don't think we're all like, yeah, we beat our kids in here. Yeah.
Well, I didn't think that. I didn't think that.
Well, no, not you, but I'm just, so the other guys and the women out there, I'm like, what's going on? But long story short, for me, positive reinforcement, since you did bring that up. Yeah. In my house, there's a very, 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 very spoken and very understood rule. And everyone knows this rule with Daddy. Mercy always takes precedence over judgment.
Oh yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Every single situation, every single scenario, I will strongly consider, if I do not accept wholly and easily and quickly, mercy over judgment. Just because you did this wrong that you knew you were not supposed to do. And I had to explain to them the difference between mercy and grace, but giving them mercy is something that you were supposed to have a punishment. You did something wrong, and I have the ability and the power to correct that, however it is, whether verbal, physical, whatever, but I'm choosing to not do it to show you that I care about you and I love you. And I'm actually withholding my hand. Exactly the same example that Nola gave with his younger son. I don't have to whip you. I can, because what you did was inappropriate. But I know that me speaking to you is going to get the job done. Right. So I'm actually being merciful in this incident. Right. And even he says for the second son that, likes to be, I'm assuming, diplomatic about things, or not diplomatic, likes to negotiate. I don't know. Yeah, it sounds like, and talk it out a lot. Even him, it sounds, first he sounds like he takes that first step. I'm going to talk to you about it. That's fine. Now for me, again, when it hits that electric fence, I told you no already. And now, we had this discussion. We've done it again. Now you're being blatant. There may be a certain point in which I'm like, all right, buddy, like next one's a shot. Like, that's enough. We're done. Drop it. Yeah. But all that to say, in my house, mercy over judgment. There's no question about that. And mercy is always observed first before judgment comes.
Nice. Any of you other guys want to talk about any positive reinforcements that you guys offer to your children or those you work with when you have to provide discipline?
Well, I know all parents enjoy this moment as their children are growing up, and that's potty training. And I heard it was a good idea to, and this was positive reinforcement for my son, is when he did it in the potty, he got a treat. And it just helped him, focus. I gotta go that potty. I gotta go tell mommy or daddy I want to sit on the big toilet, or however. And it's worked in some ways. Now, sometimes, at least he's wearing a pull-up, because, but it's gotten real good, since, we started doing that, and it's helped us out a lot.
That's an awesome example. How about you, Nola?
For reinforcements, I would just say, stick to your word. As a parent, kids have a way of testing you. And if you say to do something, you need to mean it. You need to not rationalize with them. You need to, if you have to explain, you can explain it. But you want your kids to know that your word is firm. And so when you say something, mean it and don't back down from it. If you have to get stern, then you have to get stern.
Excellent. All right. Well, gentlemen, this has been a very interesting conversation. And just in summation, each of you felt it was important to be involved in the disciplinary process in order to protect and guide and direct your children, even to show them love through that process. Number 2 is that you shared that communication is key. Corporal punishment doesn't necessarily have to be the end all to save all, but it can be just verbally providing redirection or direction. It may be sufficient. And then finally, utilizing the positive affirmation method may actually improve the compliance. There are times where you have to demonstrate mercy in the case of wrongdoing, which Mustang brought out. But there is also the times when they do good things and wonderful things, and being able to reward them with positive affirmation and treats really does encourage more of that wonderful and good behavior. You may check us out every Sunday. We have a brand new, fresh podcast. If you'd like to be in the know, subscribe to our page on Spreaker.com. We're also available on all social networks, including Facebook, YouTube, and also iTunes.
Conversations from the Cave is brought to you by the Alabama Cornea Care Center, Northern Alabama's first irregular cornea, keratoconus, and scleral lens referral center, specializing in the management of degenerative cornea disease and complications resulting from refractive surgery. For more information, you may visit them on the web at alabamacorneacare.com. The Alabama Cornea Care Center, helping patients see the light of the world. Conversations from the Cave is a production of the Provox Media Group. For more information or to share your questions or comments, visit our podcast Facebook page by searching Conversations from the Cave. The views expressed on this program are the personal beliefs of the panelists and do not necessarily represent the beliefs of the Provox Media Group or its sponsors. Join us next time for more real talk from real men. Conversations from the Cave.